I love that. It reminds me of that old saying, reach for the moon. If you miss, you'll be amongst the stars. Yeah. Take me closer to the detail. I want to know some stories, Nana. I'm sure you've got many to share. And welcome to On the Couch with me, Iman Rapeti, proudly sponsored by Nedbank CIB. We're talking about public-private partnerships for impact. Thank you for being with us. You look amazing, by the way.
Thank you.
Apelele, your story is so fascinating, how you made your way into corporate finance. I believe you wanted to be a dancer or an athlete. How did you pirouette your way into your current role?
Iman, my life was not linear, like into corporate finance. When I actually started growing up in a small town in the Eastern Cape and moving to KZN in Howick, there wasn't much that I could actually do, because when you're in a small town, it's either you get mixed up in things that you don't want to be mixed up in, or you pretty much pivot into something that you want to do. That's how I actually shifted into dance and sports. There was a point in time where I actually thought that I'd become a professional athlete. And when I was actually in high school, one of the teachers told me that, Apelele, what are you actually going to become? I said, no, I thrive in sports. I thrive in dance. That's what I'm actually going to do.
I want you to hold that thought for me, because I'm going to come back a little bit later and find out from you how all of that early experience and that desire and passion has helped you in deal making. I mean, you ladies are at the cutting edge. You're rock stars, essentially, if you look at the kind of work and the projects that you're involved in. And Nana, share with us the story as well. And there's a reason I'm asking for the specific backstory, and you'll see in just a moment. How did you end up here?
So growing up, I didn't have an image of I want to be, a pilot or a banker, as an example. My parents were actually both in the medical field. So most people assumed that that's where I would end up. But then I think in grade 10, for some reason, I was just like, nah, I don't want to go that route. So I don't know. So I decided to do commerce. And I think IT was like the big thing in the late 90s. So I went to study IT and accounting. Figured out IT is not for me, so stuck with the accounting route. And then basically I did articles, and funny enough, again, not in banking, right? But in like corporates and stuff. But after finishing my articles, I was looking for a position, like what next? And I met this fantastic person who just described, and this person worked at a bank, just described the role to me. He was young, he was passionate. And basically, I think due to his passion, I ended up in a finance role in banking, and I've been in banking ever since.
It's so beautiful to me, because in a lot of stories that we've been hearing in the series, there was some person who altered the trajectory of someone's life. And I think that is such a powerful thing. And when you think about these beginnings, and you mentioned quite an unconventional route to here, I want to hear what attributes you take out of that journey, that pressure cooker, that fighting for your space that you bring into the way that you make deals. I mean, you guys are making major, major deals, and we'll get into the meat of that in just a moment.
Yeah, so being a sports player, there's a lot that you actually take away from. It teaches you discipline. It teaches you teamwork. It teaches you to always be present, even in days that you're not feeling like being present. And within corporate finance, that's what's actually needed, because there's days where you're working back to back, not sleeping, because it's crunch time. And there's days where you feel like, can't they see that I'm under the pump? Why are they giving me more opportunities to be working on? Because I do believe that had I not gone through that journey, I might not have been the Apelele that I am today.
It also sounds like you have to be incredibly ambitious and competitive, but in a way that is also about teamwork and being a team player.
Yeah.
No, public-private partnerships are an essential cog in South Africa's growth wheel. I mean, it's where a lot of the action is supposed to be to bring real economic growth. And this is part of what you curate.
Yes.
When you talk about public-private partnerships with impact, what does it mean to you?
Impact, and I guess it's one of those things that when I'm working, I want to feel like I'm making some sort of difference. So in terms of some of the transactions we've looked at that are quite meaningful for me, because it's actually developing or assisting to develop our developing country and continent. So, for instance, renewable energy, I've worked on those.
Big one. Thank
so when
you
you
very
see
much.
a wind farm that's up and running, that means a lot to me because you're helping out people with energy security, infrastructure projects where it deals with water. I think we had a water desalination plant for communities that didn't have access to water. So that was also quite brilliant. And then also I've worked on projects for affordable housing, which is something that this country needs. And then also student accommodation and social housing. By working and being part of those type of transactions and projects, I feel like I'm actually making a meaningful impact, right? So I'm not just at the bank, just sitting behind my computer, but I'm actually doing something that makes a difference.
And that's really powerful. What I consider when I hear you say that is stakeholders that are involved, all the way from people who are the brains trust behind an idea to the communities that must be taken along as part of that process. That's a very key aspect of how you make these deals sing and work into perpetuity. So talk to us about navigating all of those challenges and getting everyone with their own agendas, with their own objectives in mind to sing from the same page and to pursue the same project.
On my side, as an advisor to a client, I always try to be the pivotal point of negotiations, always negotiating on the best interest of the client and also ensuring that the respective stakeholders, being your employees, being the community, are also aligned in the journey. Because sometimes I've been in a situation where our client had asked us to dispose of business, but management was not aligned with that disposal, and therefore the transaction failed.
What's your skill in the center of all of that?
I think it's negotiation and trying and being the pivotal point of when things are not going accordingly, try moving it back to the center. Because people, and especially in negotiations, sometimes people want to be heard. Taking a step back and hearing that, okay, you've built this business, we understand that this is the value that you've put forward for the specific business, and we're not taking that away from you.
It's a very process-driven environment that you're in, and there's a lot of governance and a lot of boxes that you have to check off. It's your responsibility to make sure that the guardrails are in place. How do you do that while also supporting initiatives that are impactful and making sure that the work of transactions continues?
I guess, firstly, risk people. I know when we speak to my colleagues, I really think of risk people and they think we just know sales, but that is not the case.
I'm sure a lot of your responses end with no.
Not really. I don't think so. You still have to, make a business and you still have to make money. But I think our focus from a risk perspective is to provide principles, right? Principles and frameworks to make sure that we are, when we do lend to our clients or we have business activities, that we're doing it in a responsible manner. I think that's the key because we need to ensure financial stability. So we don't want to just do business activities that is reckless and then before you know it, the bank is in trouble and that's impacting our depositors, customers. So you don't want that. So,
because you talk about the 2 R's, right? Yes. Responsibility is the one, and that is a tick, and recklessness certainly is something you want to avoid. Apeleni, take us inside, and perhaps, Nana, you can also think of some of these real-world transactions that you have done that have delivered a positive outcome for everyone involved, and how you showed up in those.
So in this specific businesses, when businesses are placed in business rescue, the first thing that they usually do is want to cut costs. And to ensure that we run a sufficient and accelerated sales process, we had to pretty much work within the space of 3 months. I played a pivotal role because I had to ensure that the marketing material is done within a week. I had to ensure that the due diligence the data room is prepared within 2 weeks because we wanted the bidders to review the document while also getting into the data room.
How did you rally your troops?
So when So the funny thing is most companies would actually assume that when you're not seen, you're not working. But a lot of people actually worked overtime during COVID. And therefore, there was actually a lot of hands on deck. So during that time, there was a lot of assistance in that process. The transaction created shareholder value. The transaction was able to save a lot of jobs and also retain a business that was family owned and that has been in operations for the longest time.
So that must have made you really satisfied, hey?
Yeah, it did, because most of the times we usually acting on behalf of the shareholders, but we're also acting on behalf of employees.
Nana, I want to come to you and these large-scale deals, as Apelele is sharing. When you can see the impact in front of your eyes, you're viscerally there. Talk to us about what impact personally signifies to you.
So my passion is the African continent, and to see it develop. And I think, throughout the centuries and over the years, it's something that has been a struggle. So for me, impact is making that difference to improve the development of our country, South Africa, and the continent, Africa, because there's just so much potential. It's just that we all need to work together. And
take me closer to the detail. I want to know some stories, Nana. I'm sure you've got many to share, especially, continent-wide, because the big joke is either Africa is a country and nobody understands what's going on, or that South Africa is the be-all and end-all. We're the only country that matters on the African continent. When you talk about these cross-border programs, which is important for our wider economic goals of trading, functioning and sustainably on the continent, in intra-country, what do those stories look like?
Well, personal stories, maybe it's personal to me because I was born outside South Africa. So I was born in Ghana, but on the continent. And basically we had to move here because of the fact that, there wasn't opportunities for my parents. So hence we moved to South Africa. So it's something that's deeply personal to me that we actually, working together. And they're just such smart people. It's just that we don't always have the opportunity. So if it's to build classrooms, if it's to build accommodation, if it's to just even basic electricity and water for people.
As women leading these massive transactions where a lot of things can go wrong, you could have an international pandemic, a global pandemic, or you could have miscommunication somewhere along the line. What does it take out of each of you personally to be able to deliver with strength, but also as women, you have a different bar as well, because other women are looking to you to keep shining the light along the way?
Yeah, I'll touch on that. So in corporate finance, it's quite difficult because you indirectly have to mimic or become a chameleon, where you have to be a bit more masculine in your approach. You must be a bit more confident in your approach, but masculine, but not too arrogant. So it's difficult to adapt to it. And that's why having mentors that have actually gone through that phase is key. Or going through leadership programs that assist you in navigating corporate is very key. So for me, I'm still going through the journey of knowing, okay, Apelele, are you currently doing the right thing? Are you currently positioning yourself well? Because every day is a trial and error. And as a female, I do believe that always put yourself in a position. Failure comes, failure goes, but don't doubt yourself.
I love that. It reminds me of that old saying, reach for the moon. If you miss, you'll be amongst the stars. Yeah. In other words, benchmark yourself really high. And even if you don't reach that ultimate pinnacle or goal, you would be somewhere incredible and significant, Nana?
Correct. I think one thing that's also helped me is surrounding myself with some powerful.
Oh, iron sharpens iron.
Powerful.
Absolutely.
Just to share stories, share difficulties, get ideas from each other. So throughout my career, I've met them, and I've also, stayed in contact with them. And I think that's quite important because sometimes when you in those leadership positions as a woman, sometimes you do feel alone.
We reflected earlier on about creating this environment where you lift as you rise, essentially, and you're paying it forward. How do you see, and I mean, you're both young executives. You've got an entire journey ahead of you. I'd love to know where your limit is going to be, if at all, and how you are creating an environment within your teams to do what you're doing even more impactfully, Apelele.
So in corporate finance, when I started, I was the only. And it wasn't something that I always wanted to be the only, because as Nana said, you want to have someone that you can actually relate to. And every opportunity that I get, be it if I'm mentoring someone, be it if someone's asking, most of the time you'd get like the grads or the CA trainees wanting to have coffee chats. I tell them the good and also the bad, but at the same time, try to bring them in a space where they're able to shine and be themselves.
I love that you opening that door and saying, here's the invitation, come through. Nana, last word to you.
Essentially, I think throughout my journey, I've, gotten to certain places where you can feel that people feel like you don't belong. Mm-hmm. You don't have something valuable to say. And so when I identify young women who, I sense potential that, they're hard workers and they've just got this passion and attitude. But because they're quiet, sometimes, they get lost in this big corporate world that we work in. So it's something that I focus on, speaking to those ones who I know there's passion and hard work, and just speaking to them, trying to lift their confidence so that they can also be themselves and have their voices heard.
Thank you so much. It was so uplifting, and keep doing what you're doing, managing things in the beautiful, impactful way that you have been so far. Nana Apulele, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And that's been On the Couch with me, Iman Rapesi. Please do join us for our next episode.